Governor J.B. Pritzker making the national media rounds, talking about how the federal government needs to go about banning what he calls assault weapons, while the semi-automatic weapons ban that he has here in Illinois faces challenges up and down the federal judiciary. Welcome back. Bishop on Air. You can find me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air on Twitter, Facebook, here on YouTube. If you want to support the show, also be sure to check out the store, which we opened up this week. Actually, it was last week. Still technically on vacation, but figured I'd hop on and give you guys a bit of an update here. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. We've got Governor J.B. Pritzker, who made the rounds on Jen Psaki's show this past weekend, talking about firearms and what he would like to see happen with firearms, and in particular, the issue of gun control. Here he is talking with Jen Psaki.
Because it's another issue that you've been very outspoken on. You're among a group of governors who have had some success at a time when people are looking for success in this area. When it comes to passing common sense reforms, you signed a ban earlier this year on high-powered semi-automatic weapons, and an appeals court recently upheld that. But nationally, even despite all of the tragedies we've seen, there just is not I shouldn't say nationally, in Washington, there is not an appetite for change. Why do you think that is?
Well, people have to get a spine. You know, the NRA has controlled the Congress for far too long. Organizations that are pro-gun, that would be fine if everybody had a gun, those organizations have been in charge. And it's time for them to, the members of Congress, to recognize that the majority of the public out here in the rest of the country are in favor of keeping families safe when they go to a parade like happened in Highland Park. Mm-hmm. And they expect to be able to enjoy themselves on July 4th, and instead gunmen on top of a roof in Highland Park with 3 high-capacity 30-round magazines, 3 of those, and an AR-15 style weapon, killed 7 people and shot 48 others, all in a matter of 60 seconds. 83 bullets fired in 60 seconds. Who needs a weapon like this? Only people who are in a war. Only our soldiers need weapons like that, not civilians out in the hinterlands here. And so I do believe this is an issue that is important to the American people, but once again, with Republicans in control of the House of Representatives and Donald Trump at the top of the Republican ticket, it appears that it's going to be very difficult to get something passed. Joe Biden wants to get a ban on assault weapons passed. I met with him, with the mayor of Highland Park, with the commander of the Highland Park Police, and he expressed it in no uncertain terms, and we want to help him do that.
Between now and then, do you think it's going to be up to the states to make reforms happen?
It is. I mean, I think we've seen that because of inaction in Washington on so many issues, that power has devolved to the states. And being a governor, I can say that, you know, it's an effort that I take on with some zeal. And indeed, we've been successful at passing not just an assault weapons ban, but a ban on high-capacity magazines, a ban on switches that turn regular guns into an automatic weapon, and protecting abortion rights, and putting in place a ban on book bans. Protecting people's individual rights, that's something that we out here in the states are going to have to do state by state until the federal government finally gets its act together.
So again, that's Governor J.B. Pritzker on former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki's program this past weekend, talking about not just book bans and more access to abortion in Illinois, but also talking about what he calls common sense gun control. And that's clearly something that he's going to continue to advance, while the measure that he implemented earlier this year that has that January 1st deadline for people to register their banned firearms with state police or face criminal penalties, that faces challenges all up and down the federal judiciary. And when you look at the latest in that, you've got, of course, up in the U.S. Supreme Court, Dan Calkins' case, as we talked about last week. It was docketed on the 14th, and the state has until December 14th to respond. And this deals not just with the question of the gun ban and the due process and equal protections. It really does delve into the questions of conflict of interest. We've talked about that quite a bit, especially when it comes to the Illinois Supreme Court and their ruling that was delivered in August, and how you had Dan Calkins say that two of the Supreme Court justices had taken $1 million each from Governor J.B. Pritzker when they were running for the office, and that raises questions of a conflict of interest. And as we've talked about before in the past with experts from outside of Illinois, even just the perception of a conflict of interest can really be problematic to people's judiciary, the trust in the judiciary. So that's an issue there. But it's not just the U.S. Supreme Court where this could come up, as Pritzker talks about wanting to get the Congress to pass a ban on certain semi-automatic firearms. And saying that, these AR-15s are things that only soldiers should have. This was obviously an argument in the appeals courts where it seemed that the three-judge panel, two of the three judges in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, they indicated that, if the military is using it, then it's off limits to the general public, which you've got the federal firearms licensees of Illinois and others in court in the lower district, Southern District of Illinois, arguing that that essentially means that the military can have a veto on what the regular citizens can have just by saying, hey, say they take a standard 9mm pistol with a 10-round magazine. And all of a sudden, is that off limits to the general public? So it's interesting to hear those arguments that the governor is parroting from the two of the three appeals court justices. But the appeals court is being asked now by a whole range of groups to actually do an en banc review. So this was on Friday when this was brought up. You had the petition for a rehearing and a petition for en banc by Caleb Barnett, Hoods, Guns, and More, National Shooting Sports Foundation, Brian Norman, and Pro Gun and Indoor Range. You got C4 Gun Store, Firearms Policy Coalition, Dane Harrell, Illinois State Rifle Association, Marengo Guns, Second Amendment Foundation, all of them incorporated in another case. Then you've got Timothy Jones, Jeremy Langley, Matthew Wilson, that's in the MAG case. Appellees Deborah Clark, Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, Gun Owners Foundation, Gun Owners of America, Gun Save Life, Chris Moore, Piasaw Armory, and Jasmine Young, all of them with their filing of a petition for en banc. So that was filed on the 17th, and I'm still waiting to see if we can get access to that particular filing, but through through Pacer, it's still saying that it's not available yet. So we will be reviewing all of these documents, of course, as they're filed in the courts. But you've got the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals having already ruled that the state's likely to succeed on the merits, while also speculating that the military can essentially void the rights of citizens and what types of firearms they can own, not just own, but be able to have in their own home, and the questions of, can a state go about and banning commonly owned firearms like an AR-15, like an AK-47, like any other semi-automatic firearms, and some hunting shotguns. But the Second Amendment, is it about hunting? That's a question I've posed to a variety of individuals. So up and down the judiciary, as the governor says that he's looking to ultimately have Congress pass some kind of gun control legislation to ban semi-automatic firearms. Would that include a registry? Is the governor wanting to take what Illinois is doing and put that onto the federal government to have a ban? Would that have to be challenged? Are we going to see some outcomes from either Dan Calkins' case that could overturn the Illinois Supreme Court's case? Or are we going to see an injunction in the Southern District where we're still waiting on a couple of different pieces here? You've got the Southern District of Illinois having heard the Langley case about vagueness. That was back in October when they heard that. And you've got the judge, Stephen McGlynn, still waiting to see what kind of ruling he's going to put in the Langley case, because they heard that it was for final judgment in challenging the state's vagueness issues, and saying that the law that has the January 1st deadline to register firearms or else face criminal penalties is just too vague. So Thomas Magg, the attorney for Langley et al., brought this in front of Judge Stephen McGlynn. And then you had McGlynn ultimately hear that case, but yet we have yet to get any kind of ruling on that. So we're still waiting there. But meanwhile, back in the Southern District of Illinois, you also have the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois and other plaintiffs that have went ahead and filed for their preliminary injunction motion to block the state from implementing that January 1st deadline. So that is obviously another area we're watching and continuing to watch, and we have yet to see yet what will happen next, because coming up tomorrow, they've got a status conference. All right, so we'll be monitoring that. Of course, it's a short holiday weekend, but a status conference is set in the case for the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois in the Southern District of Illinois. This is not a hearing. This is just a status. All right, so we'll find out when exactly the next oral arguments are going to be in this case from the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, because I think that that's going to be rather telling, especially with their arguments that the due process wasn't necessarily followed when it comes to having enough time to review these rules. The January 1st deadline needs to be postponed while this plays through the courts. So we'll have a status conference on that case that the FFL of Illinois brought in the Southern District, all while you've got the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals on bonk requests and the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a lot of moving pieces, even on this Thanksgiving week. So we'll keep you updated where we can and see if we can tap into that status hearing as well. All right, be sure to follow me anywhere, Bishop on Air. Appreciate you guys hanging out even past the technical difficulties for the live stream on this Monday morning. I'm still technically on vacation, but figured I'd hop on and share some thoughts with you. Also, if you could, support the show, follow the store links below the YouTube page, or find more information at bishoponair.com. Bishoponair.com. That's the website where you can find all the links that you can contact me with. You can also get get access to the store proper. So be sure to check that out. All right, coming back, I will share with you a conversation I had with William Kelly, reporter out of Chicago.